Hello and welcome back. In this video, I'll be talking about the horrific story of how a babysitter disguised a dead infant as if he was sleeping and gave the dead baby back to his mother. It all took place within the quiet town of Wausau, Wisconsin, where a dark and unsuspecting presence prowled in the form of 28-year-old pregnant Marissa Tietsort, mother to 5 children. Before the year 2018, Marissa was the symbol of great motherly care and affection, a woman who everyone in the nook and cranny of Wausau believed loved children the most. So how a symbol of great motherly care and affection committed the unthinkable is the story for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. I'm your host, Greenman, and this is the Murder Encyclopedia. Marissa Tietsort's upbringing, like that of most criminals, is not so different. Her father abandoned her and her younger sister when they were little. In the absence of a father figure, Marissa and her sister were left under the whims of an abusive stepfather who would ask them to expose their body parts for his perverted sexual gratification. Their mother, on the other hand, was a drug addict who took great care of her addiction more than her children. To enable her to fund her lifestyle with more drugs, she often sold Marissa and her sister to drug dealers, who in turn subjected them to all forms of assault, including drug-inducing abuse. Marissa's childhood is only known to the extent of her unstable home upbringing. Aside from that, not much else is known. She later got into a long-term relationship with her boyfriend Adam Bouchard in her early 20s. Subsequently, she bore 5 children to him. Unbeknownst to most of her community, Marissa's home became a place of terror for her first 4 children. Within those walls, a horrifying kind of abuse was meted, one where the mother was the actual monster. In one instance, she left her 1-year-old son in a hot car for several hours and was known to occasionally deprive him of food. In another instance, she left the house with the baby right in the middle of a rainstorm to go to a party. And when her husband came to get the baby, she refused to give him the baby formula or food stamps. Reports were made to the social service, who decided to launch an investigation. Marissa was not ready to let her children go just yet. She denied the allegations strongly, stating that she was a good mother who had the utmost love and dedication to her kids. However, the wounds on her children's bodies spoke louder than her lies, and the authorities took them away from the house of horrors in which they were living. Surprisingly, it was her husband Adam who reported her to the authorities. His report was to the effect that Marissa was an abusive mother to their children. Although she gave birth to 5 children in total, her last child was born much later. And even after his birth, the authorities were unaware of his existence, nor the fact that she had another child. But I digress. Back to the present, Marissa's rage must have been at a boiling point, as all her potential victims had been taken away from her. So she decided to come up with an alternative. If she couldn't have her own children around her, then she would have other people's children. Twisted as it is, perhaps this critical point in her life was when her resolve to run a babysitting operation began to formulate. Additionally, she also started battling addiction, perhaps as a consequence of her abusive upbringing under her own mother, or in order to cope with the fact that 4 of her children were taken away from her. Marissa started getting more and more addicted to drugs. She was getting charged with drug-related misdemeanors and spending time in police custody for drug-related offenses. It became such a problem that her husband threatened to throw her into rehab. In the face of this threat, she decided to stay clean. But then again, she had already come up with something else to keep her preoccupied. Her daycare babysitting operation, situated in her own house, had become fully functional. For the most part, her babysitting daycare operation was as normal as it could get. Parents were deeply satisfied with how well Marissa handled children, and in no time, her reputation as a true babysitter spread all over Wausau. That was until the first crack in her vile pretense appeared. In 2017, the parents of a 3-month-old boy dared to entrust him and his sister to the care of Marissa. When the parents returned to pick up their children, they were met with a horrifying sight. Their little boy bore facial bruising and his tiny form was marked by the signs of trauma. In despair, the parents took the little boy to the hospital, and it was revealed that the baby had a fractured skull. The panic-stricken parents reported to the police, who then summoned Marissa. When questioned, she claimed that the infant's older sister had fought for the bottle during feeding, accidentally causing the injuries. She was never charged in that incident, as there was not enough probable cause to prosecute. The fact that the people fighting against her were mere children who couldn't speak nor defend themselves made her an even more dangerous societal menace. Aside from this incident, 2 children in her care had turned up in the past with brain bleeds, which were swept under the rug as a lack of proper child supervision when they were playing. Feeling confident about how she avoided accountability for the 3-month-old baby, she decided to initiate her second abuse the next year, in August 2018. It was at this time that her luck ran out. Her second known victim was Riley, an 8-month-old baby girl whom her parents entrusted with Marissa. When it was time to pick up the girl, the parents discovered that Riley had purple bruises and red marks on her face. Marissa told the parents and the police that the girl rolled off the couch onto the floor while she was napping, which resulted in a rug burn. However, the doctors had a different opinion. They determined that the girl's injuries were not consistent with the fall from the couch, but could not say for certain what caused them. Riley's father told the police it looked like his daughter's face was dragged across the floor. After a series of investigations, Marissa was finally charged with child abuse in relation to Riley. And just when the whole world probably thought her despicable actions had come to an end, something even worse happened. On the 18th of October, 2018, merely 2 weeks after Marissa's child abuse charge, the Wausau police would receive a call around 9:45 p.m. that a 2-month-old baby was unresponsive at a laundromat.
Yes, County 911. Please, there's a laundromat in the corner of 3rd and Union. Please.
On that day, and what must have been a cold afternoon, Heather Gardner entrusted her 2 children in the hands of Marissa. Hours later, she received a terrifying text from Marissa herself. The text contained a story about Marissa, plastered on a local news outlet's website claiming that she'd been charged with child abuse. Marissa warned the mother not to tell anyone that she was taking care of her children. 3 hours later, with trepidation, Heather in the company of her sister arrived at Marissa's home, hoping to find her children safe and sound. She saw her 2-month-old baby boy, Benson, lying in his car seat, dressed in a snowsuit with a head pulled down over his eyes. The mother assumed he was asleep, a natural assumption at that hour. Taking her children, the mother took her leave and headed to the laundromat to finish her chores. It was there that she checked on Benson for the first time and came upon a discovery that rattled her to her bones. Benson was not breathing. His body was cold to the touch and his limbs were stiff. In a great panic, she attempted CPR on the lifeless baby while her sister called 911. However, when the authorities arrived, Benson was declared dead. The police were now faced with 2 questions. When and how did Benson die? Observations indicated that Benson had likely passed away hours earlier while still in Marissa's care. A routine check revealed Marissa's history of child abuse and the outstanding charge against her in relation to the abuse of 8-month-old Riley. An investigation was launched, and in the next grueling 24 hours, Marissa was questioned about what happened to Benson. Marissa, whose ultimate skill lay in her ability to deny guilt and spin a web of lies, was determined not to admit her crimes. An autopsy report showed that Benson died due to severe head trauma, which was the result of multiple injuries to the head. Marissa later admitted that the baby died in her care, saying that she put him down too hard in his playpen. She admitted to not performing any CPR whatsoever when she discovered that Benson was no longer breathing. Further evidence in the form of CCTV footage showed Marissa and her boyfriend Adam, together with little Benson and his brother, walking into McDonald's around 6:30 p.m. on the day of the incident. Benson was long dead before their detour to McDonald's, and Marissa had insidiously dragged a dead baby around town, acting as if he was alive and well. Following the investigation, prosecutors filed 2 charges against her, one for the abuse of 11-month-old Riley, and the other an even more serious felony charge of first-degree reckless homicide in the case of little Benson. Marissa was locked up, but eventually granted bail to the tune of $500,000, which she couldn't afford to pay. Her desperate plea for a bond reduction was rejected by the court. In a letter she wrote to Judge Phil Fosted begging for a reduction, she said, "I'm not a threat to society or a monster. I'm a great mom, and I love everybody." In a courtroom battle that would test the boundaries of justice and mercy, Marissa pleaded no contest, acknowledging her guilt in the twisted saga that left 2 innocent lives ruined. The prosecution pressed for the harshest penalty, while her defense attorney, Michael Hughes, sought a more nuanced understanding of her troubled past. Hughes urged the court to consider Marissa's tumultuous upbringing, marked by an unstable home and the dark specters of drug addiction and sexual abuse. He pleaded that while she deserved punishment, she also needed to help break the cycle of destruction that had consumed her life. Judge Jacobson acknowledged the shadows of Marissa's traumatic childhood, but remained resolute that it could never excuse the unspeakable crime she had committed against the innocent children in her care. The sentence fell like a hammer, as Marissa was condemned to 40 years in prison for first-degree reckless homicide, and an additional 3 years for child abuse to be served consecutively. Additionally, the judge ordered 20 years of extended supervision after her release, which means the ramifications of her crimes won't disappear even after she leaves prison. As the courtroom emptied, the people of Wausau, who were all wearing Justice for Benson t-shirts, could not help but mourn the loss of the little boy, the 2-month-old child whose life was cruelly stolen. The echoes of his tragic fate would forever linger in the hearts of the community of Wausau and be a testament that evil could lurk in the most unsuspecting persons. If you enjoyed watching, please like, share, and subscribe for more content, because there's a lot more where this came from, here at the Murder Encyclopedia.